benefits. Individual development accounts. Now, a lot of people said they didn't know what an IDA was, so we'll go through that a little bit. Individual, boy, I have to slow down sometimes. Sorry, interpreters. An individual development account is a matched savings account that helps low-income individuals purchase an asset, such as a home. Participants receive the match when they've reached their savings goal. Whoop, wrong button. The federal program that the federal government funds is called the Assets for Independence, Individual Development Accounts. Now, under this program, participants can save for one of three things: self-employment, post-secondary ed, or home ownership. The savings in this program are exempt from Social Security asset limitations. Is that accurate, Carolyn? And the grants to do these programs are awarded to nonprofit organizations. The match ratio can differ from program to program. There are some programs, if you save $1,000, they'll give you $1,000. There are some programs that can, if you save $1,000, give you $8,000, which is pretty amazing. I don't know any of those, but these are the existing programs, according to last week when I checked AFI's site, that exist in the state of Kentucky. Brighton Center is in Newport. Jewish Family is and Career Services is in Louisville. Race for Education, interestingly, here in Lexington, is restricted to individuals in the horse race industry. The big one in Kentucky, which we're going to talk about in more detail, is through the Kentucky Domestic Violence Association. They're a network grantee with AFI. They have 16 sub-grantees, so they work with a variety of programs around the state, not all of which are restricted to survivors of domestic violence. Their main program is aimed at survivors of domestic violence, but some of their IDAs qualify, other people can qualify. They emphasize home ownership, post-secondary ed, and business capitalization. And along with all this goes a great amount of financial education and counseling. KC, as I said, they target eligible low-income domestic violence victims, and you do have to have low income to qualify for the AFI IDAs throughout Kentucky. But they do have some sub-grantees. For instance, they do have a program in the community college system for individuals in the return to work program, I think. Those folks don't have to be disabled, but they do have to be low income, where they can save $1,000 if they're going to community college, and they'll get $1,000 for books or something else that helps them go to school. And that's available, I think, or was, in all the community colleges around the state, except maybe for Owensboro and Henderson, the last thing I heard. This is pretty cool, and we did pattern a program after this for a while. They have a state-funded car IDA where they've used, this is not part of the federal program, where they've used foundation funding for the money. And under this, again, you have to be a domestic violence survivor under this program, but participants must earn less than 200% of federal poverty level. Earned income is not required, and the saving match is 1-to-1. They can save up to $2,000 and get $2,000 to buy a car. And a lot of our folks need transportation. So this is around the state. You also have to complete a car maintenance course, financial education, and case management. And the car has to be purchased outright, or you could use it as a down payment for a loan. So a couple of years ago, in 2014, we used some money we had at the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Statewide Independent Living Council to start our own car IDA for individuals with disabilities. We targeted the Ashland and Murray areas, fairly rural sites. The original goal was to help 10 individuals save for cars. We later expanded to 13. To date, 8 have received cars. Unfortunately, we had to discontinue the program because the independent living program, which we were calling this an independent living service, moved over to another agency. But we found it quite successful while we did it. Catch up here. Nope, let me go back up. For instance, there was one case, I won't mention where it's from, where an individual had a disability and they had a substance abuse problem, had spent time incarcerated in county jail, but was turning their life around. And Sarah Richardson, by the way, in our office handles these. And she was needing a car for work. And she had a bad credit history, but we got her involved in our car IDA. And she saved the $2,000, but she didn't want a $4,000 car. She wanted a better car. So she used the $4,000 to apply for a loan through the KATLC to get a $10,000 car. And as far as I know, she's doing well. She had a terrible credit history, but we took a chance on her with the loan, and so far it's worked out. I bring up this story because something about it really irritates me. I don't know if you remember when we were talking about it before. This person spent time in the county jail for substance abuse issues, and when she got out, they sent her a bill for her time in the county jail, which to me was a shock. I didn't know they could do that. They can bill you for being in jail. And then when she didn't pay it, they turned it over to collections. So one of the reasons her credit history is so terrible is that the county jail turned her over to collections for not failing to pay her debt. It's not bad enough we dig a little hole for somebody. We have to dig a real big hole for them to come out of. And that just kind of surprised me. The person who's done this program has seen a lot of people. She provides financial education as part of it. And she's had a positive effect with a lot of people. She got somebody to stop smoking so they could save for their car, and somebody to stop smoking something else to save for their car. So we had a lot of, we saw a lot of value in it. Just did not have a mechanism for continuing it. Some of y'all are maybe familiar with any questions about the IDAs. I mean, they're not necessarily widespread, and I'll talk about another one here in a little bit, but they are really important tools for helping some people build assets.
Where did they go to get that application or start that process?
Well, you know, there were the 4 AFI sites that I gave you earlier. I would see if you're eligible for any of those. You could contact, and they have a website too, Kentucky Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and see which one of their IDAs. You don't have to be a domestic violence survivor. They are limited, but I think, you know, it's a tool that more people should be. It just costs money, of course, but it's a tool that more people should be using, more organizations should be using. Bank On is a program that came out of San Francisco. It really locally led partnerships between government and financial institutions, community organizations, to try to get people banked or underbanked people better services. I won't talk about it long because we only have 3 in Kentucky right now. There used to be about 5 or 6, but these are the 3 I found on the website that I knew were active, and I'm not sure how active Bluegrass is anymore. I think the United Way has kind of doesn't have the resources to continue it. Bank on Louisville is the strongest one because Louisville Metro government has bought in hook, line, and sinker. They have some substantial banking partners, Fifth Third Bank, and a few others, PNC. The idea is to get banks to develop programs for low-income individuals, second chance banking programs for people. So it's limited in certain areas, but I found it to be very effective. They Bank On and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation developed standards for bank accounts. That's another handout. They're trying to encourage banks to offer these services. I I'm not sure how many of them are doing it because the ATM fee is $250 or less. I don't know any ATM fees that are $250 or less. But this is what FDIC and Bank On encourages banks to go by. I just thought I'd send that information, give that information to you. Most banks do have some kind of educational program, you have, particularly bigger banks, that you can access in special accounts. The bigger banks are required to serve low-income areas through the Community Reinvestment Act, CRA. So if you're ever working with a bank and you want to know what they do for low-income people, you can refer to the CRA. And that's how we got involved with Fifth Third at KTLC. This is a way they had of meeting part of their CRA requirement. Wanted to talk briefly about a program in Louisville, and it'd be great if some of this stuff could be duplicated elsewhere, but I wanted to go through this kind of, so it's very interesting. We got involved with this program with Louisville Metro, and the National Disability Institute funded this program to create a community-wide culture of financial inclusiveness and accessibility that serves the diverse Louisville Metro population, particularly low-income individuals with disabilities. The first year was mostly just getting a group together to focus on the same issues. But they have a pilot project, which I think is fascinating, that NDI is funding. So if you're a Louisville resident, they are working with 20 participants with disabilities. The participants will be eligible for an IDA or a microloan of up to $500 to purchase an asset for transportation, housing stability or equipment to address their disability. Even a refrigerator might be something they could buy. They'll save $500 and get $500. And all along they'll have a peer mentor with a disability, coaching them along the way and providing financial education. There's going to be 2 cohorts, one at the Center for Accessible Living in Louisville and one at Goodwill. So I thought I'd bring that up because it is an innovative way of reaching people and helping them build assets. I also gave you a financial directory that honestly needs a little work, but there's a lot of resources in here you might be able to take advantage of. There are housing resources. Most of this is mostly for low-income individuals, but there's some education resources and a lot of online resources for financial education. In our car IDA, Sarah Richardson, who's done that, has used My Money, My Goals, produced by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She's found that to be a very helpful tool. I think FDIC uses Smart Money. But these are resources you might want to check out for different things. I'm almost done, I think. Oh, see, that's the wrong email. I put my personal email in there, and I just noticed it yesterday. And that email has been defunct for 4 years. So if you send anything to that.
That says Dave's getting ready to retire.
Yes. A couple other things I wanted to mention. We applied through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in the FDIC. What's FDIC stand? Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, to be part of a train-the-trainer cohort. We haven't been notified yet. It's supposed to focus on individuals with disabilities. To use money, my money, my goals as a training tool. We're going to send somebody to DC to be trained, and it's probably going to be Sarah Richardson, who already knows too much about the tool to be trained, but she's going to come back and we're going to look for volunteers among service providers to use the tool. If we get it, and we're pretty sure that we'll get it at this point. I also mentioned to Carolyn and I were kind of having a discussion about Kentucky Disability Benefits 101. It's a website that the World Institute on Disability customizes to a state. They've done about 8 states, and through a grant, through our SGA grant, we are going to purchase it for Kentucky. It's not cheap, but it does give people access anywhere in the state, even though we're paying for it, to information about benefits. And but as we've Carol and I have talked, you probably still need a certified person to really go over the information with you to make sure you don't make any mistakes and you have all the information. But it is a way to get people information about their benefits that's probably going to take the rest of the year to develop, so it won't be out for a while. Well, this isn't related to, but while I'm here, I'll mention a couple other things. Is that all right?
Yeah, you're fine.
CATS Network is the AT project in the state, which the OVR now ministers. We have a few programs you might be interested in. Project Carrot is a reuse project. We take in durable medical equipment like wheelchairs and bath stools and other things, refurbish them, and then give them back to people. Anybody's eligible for that. We started a hearing aid program a couple of years ago for low-income individuals. CATS Network assists individuals to apply with Here Now, which is the foundation arm of Sharkey Hearing Aid Company. A person can get a hearing aid for $250 application fee. CATS Network, over the 2 years, has provided some of those fees for people that couldn't even afford $250. So they still have a little bit of money, but more importantly, CATS sets them up with an audiologist who would be willing to work for basically nothing to do the hearing aid. KATS Network.
Say it, tell me.
Kentucky Assistive Technology Services Network. And Wednesday, we were awarded a grant from the Reeve Foundation to buy a substantial number of portable ramps and ramp building kits, and we will be distributing those portable ramps, lending those out to people who might need them on a short-term basis or other reason through about 10 sites around the state. Since we just got the grant 2 days ago, we won't be getting information out about that for a month or two, but I wanted people to be aware of those possible services.
That's awesome, Dave.
Any questions for me? I know I talk too fast, but anything else? Get anything?
Where'd you get your tie? No.
I don't know. It's a nice one though, isn't it?
Dave always has very interesting, innovative ties.
It's Bruce's Rainforest. I don't know. Does anybody want to hold the cardinal?
We'll leave him up here. We can leave him up here.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! There's too many UK fans in the room.
But you're going to stick around, right? You're not leaving.
I'll stay for a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Stay in the back for a while.
Okay, so I'm going to move over here and see if I can drive this thing. So my name is Carolyn Wheeler, and as Walt said, I am employed here at the Human Development Institute and have been on a number of projects over a number of years. And part of my projects I've been involved with, and also just a really strong interest that I have, is helping families plan for the future, as well as help people with disabilities go to work and figure out ways to save money so that they don't lose their eligibility for really more Medicaid than anything. Because in fact, you could lose your cash payment for SSI and still keep Medicaid, which is unfortunately maybe a well-kept secret. But in any event, so I want to first say thank you to 3 colleagues. So first, I don't know if you can scan over or pan over here to Karen Perch. So Karen Perch is an estate planning attorney here in Lexington, with whom I've done lots of work and also encouraged lots of families to meet with. And Karen is also the executive director. You can get to, are we getting to Karen? We're getting to a table. Maybe to stay on me, and we'll see Karen later. And anyway, Karen is the executive director of Life Plan of Kentucky, which is a pooled special needs trust that I'll be speaking briefly about. And then OJ Alika and Samara Heverin are here with us today from Treasurer Allison Ball's office. So thank you all for coming. OJ is the chief of staff, and Samara is actually oversees several things, including Kentucky's STABLE program, which is Kentucky's ABLE account program. So I'm going to present, but then leave time for Karen and Samara and OJ to come up here for you all to ask questions. So I'd ask that you not ask questions now, not because we're not interested, but because I'd like really the experts, so to speak, to be able to answer them for you. Now, I did not make available my PowerPoint to you on purpose. However, I did make available, at least to those people online, and maybe, well, people here, if they registered, they have access to the Dropbox as well. Am I correct? So they do have access. So you do have handouts in the Dropbox, which is the one-page description of Stable Kentucky, gives you the information about the website. I'll also show you the website. Information about Life Plan of Kentucky. Also information about a free workshop that HDI is sponsoring in conjunction with Life Plan of Kentucky, the ARC of Kentucky, on March 18th in Louisville. It's in the morning at the University of Louisville, Shelby campus, I'm sorry. But where we're going to talk about some of these things again, but I also have 3 adult siblings of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are going to talk about futures planning issues and things they wish their parents knew or had known or had done or did do. And also talk about a really important topic called supported decision making. So that's in the Dropbox. And also I gave you a comparison chart between ABLE accounts, first party special needs trust accounts, and by the end of this presentation, I hope you know what that is, and third party supplemental needs trust, which is what families need to do. So there are handouts. And really what I'm wanting you all to do is to learn to fish. So as we all know, Medicaid is a lifeline. That's probably why you're here. You're interested in how people can save and not lose their eligibility for Medicaid. And people can actually receive Medicaid even though they receive a Social Security Disability Insurance Payment, or SSDI, as my friend Linda does, for whom I'm a representative payee and power of attorney. Linda has Medicaid because she's eligible for the Michelle P. waiver. So she has the resource issue because she's eligible for Medicaid through the Michelle P. waiver, not because of her Social Security disability benefit. And so this resource limit has been in existence, I think, since about 1972 or 74, 73. And there's been efforts to increase this in Congress, but it just hasn't happened for whatever reason. So, but I want you all to look at that word countable. Countable. There are things and assets that people can have and own that are excluded for purposes of eligibility determinations for both SSI, supplemental security income, and Medicaid. And so I've got some of these listed on the screen. So people, for example, could own a home if they could afford to own a home, but if they own a home and they live there, they can own a car. There are ways to arrange for final expenses so that that's an excluded resource. People can own stuff. It's not that people can't have anything. Really, it's primarily you can't have cash or something that can easily be converted to cash above that $2,000 limit in a given month. And property essential to self-support, there are people that I know who are on SSI, have some SSI payment because they actually have their own business and they earn money. And whatever the business owns is excluded as a resource. That's entitled, that's what property essential to self-support is. So the Stephen Beck Jr. ABLE Act, ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Obama in December of 2014. And the gentleman pictured in this picture is Stephen Beck Jr. And Mr. Beck helped conceive the ABLE Act. And those of you who are advocates know that the ABLE Act was around for a long time before it finally got passed. There was lots of advocacy that occurred really primarily on the part of parents who wanted to be able to save in their child's own name and social security number, as well as people themselves with disabilities. And Mr. Beck died unexpectedly several days prior to the signing of the bill. And so we know it as the ABLE account, but officially this is the title. So I want to talk about what establishes ABLE accounts. So the ABLE Act created a new section 529A in the IRS tax code. And this is really important for you to understand because it will help you to understand why kind of things are the way they are. And so it's tax advantaged in terms of the growth on the accounts, but then there are restrictions in terms of what the money can be spent on in order for it to be disregarded or excluded when determining the beneficiary's eligibility for federal means tested benefits. So it is side by side with a program called 529 accounts that already existed. So those of you in the room, you may have heard of college savings plans, so you could save money toward college for a child or a grandchild, or you could for college or maybe for a post-secondary schooling of some sort. So this is in the same IRS code, 529, and then ABLE accounts are 529A accounts. So as you can see on the screen, again, the earnings would accumulate tax-free, and withdrawals then are federally tax-free and penalty-free as long as they are used at an eligible educational institution for the things listed on the screen. I don't think you see your spring break trip to Daytona on that list. That would not, I don't think, be considered a qualified educational expense for purposes of a 529 plan. But the things that are here. So that parallel is with ABLE accounts. There are qualified disability expenses, of which there are a number. So a really great resource, and I would encourage those of you here and those of you online to visit the National ABLE Resource Center. So you can find, in fact, lots of information about ABLE accounts. There are other resources. There are a number of webinars. Whoops, went too quick, I think. Well, it's not dropping down, but in any event, there are archived webinars on that screen, and there's also a map of the United States. I assume you all recognize that. So the blue states are the states that currently have active ABLE programs. I believe Ohio was the first. Pretty sure Ohio opened accounts first. And so what I want you all to know, although we're going to encourage you to really open your account here in Kentucky, but you do need to know that Kentuckians have a choice. There are a number of these programs that would be glad to accept your money from out of state. You just have to find out which ones are national programs. And you can do that by clicking on any of the states that are blue and finding out whether or not they're accepting applications from people from just that state, residents only, or from other states. Kentucky's program is just for Kentucky residents. But as you'll learn, we are essentially, as we are by our borders, we are essentially linked to Ohio, which to me is awesome for lots of reasons. And that Ohio is a national program. So to me, if you open an account in Kentucky and you didn't move somewhere, most likely you could still stay where you are, because Ohio, you could figure that out. How's that, OJ? That's my guess. That could be figured out. But if you want to compare, you can, again, click on this link. You can compare different state programs, because there are differences in terms of the financial services company where the money would be invested. There may be some differences in terms of asset management fees. So if you want to do your due diligence, this website can help you do that. And I would anticipate by the end of the year, there'll be more blue states. And so here are some webinars. And actually, I believe this one right here, OJ Aliko was presented the Stable Kentucky program, and I believe the one from Michigan, Virginia, and Oregon were also presented. So these are archived webinars, and again, you can learn more about those opportunities, or just to learn more about ABLE accounts in general. So ABLE NRC